So we were going to start a new mimer today. We finished the mimer last week. You could see it on YouTube, Hanan. But I don't know. They didn't send me the copies that I needed to prepare, so I just prepared a sikha on Purim because Purim's coming up, and the Rebbe has much to say on everything in Torah and mitzvahs and avodas Hashem. So this is a sikha of the Rebbe on Purim. I made copies.
Not in English.
It's only in Hebrew. All right, but we're going to translate everything. We'll go slowly. I don't know if we go slowly. We could go fast and probably finish it today. We could go slowly and maybe finish it next week. It's a good sikha. Okay, let's begin. Yadua pirusha shel Baal Shem Tov ala Koris and Megillah lemafreya lo yotza. The Gemara says that someone who reads the Megillah out of order is not yotze.
Okay, so
Hi, come on in.
yeah, again, it's
Well, someone who reads that's the Gemara, right? The Baal Shem Tov says on that Gemara that someone who reads the Megillah out of order is not yotze, is not fulfill his obligation. The Baal Shem Tov says, Kasher Adam Kores HaMegillah, Mitoich Machshava, Shasipor Ira Rak Ba'avar L'Mafreya, Lo Ata Mitkayem Anes, Hari Lo Yatza. The Baal Shem Tov says, he explains that Gemara, he takes it a little deeper. The Pirush of the Gemara is bidiyuk what the Gemara is exactly what the Gemara says. If you read the Megillah out of order, you say one pasuk before another, you didn't fulfill your obligation. You have to read it in the order the Megillah is written. Baal Shem Tov says if someone thinks that the story of Purim, the nace of Purim, the miracle of Purim, happened only back then in the past, lemafreya, that's the Hebrew word, lemafreya, retroactively, and it's not actually taking place right now, lo yatsa. He didn't fulfill his obligation. In other words, he didn't fulfill his obligation in understanding Jewish history and the events that occur at the same day each year correctly. Tachlis kriyas hamagillah hi lilmod mimena ketzat tzarich hayehudi linhog ata. The purpose of reading of the Megillah is not just to tell us the story of the miracle that took place back then, but it's to teach us from that story we should learn how a Jew has to act now. That's the Baal Shem Tov. So the Rebbe says, not only regarding Purim is this true, sorry. No, that's a little later in the Sikha. So the Rebbe says, this is true regarding all of the verses in the Megillah. That we just began. The Gemara says you're not yotze kriyas Megillah if you read it out of order, and the Baal Shem Tov says if you think that the nace, the miracle of kriyas Megillah is something that just happened in the past, so you're not yotze. It's happening right now. And the Rebbe says, so this is true by all the verses in Megillah, that you have to read them in the proper order. Alachas, kama v'kama, if it's true by all the verses, how much more so is it true by the verse, by the Megillah itself in a general manner? Ubevadai legabei pasuk, and for certain, the verse that says, Shabbat Muzbar Hashem Purim, the verse that explains why the holiday is called Purim. Shaharei Shmo Shel Kol Davar Mevata Es Mahuto. Because we know that the name of everything expresses its essence. The imkach, and if that's so, Pasuk Zeh Mevaret Mahuta Purim. This Pasuk explains the essence of Purim. Shezeo Inyan Ikari Shel Megillah, and that's the main thing of the Megillah, Purim, which is a Persian word. ובכך יש הוראה נצחית לכל זמן ולכל מקום, הן עתה עבור כלל Yisrael והן עבור כל Yisrael כיחיד. And we're going to learn regarding this a eternal instruction for every time and every place, an instruction that applies to Klal Yisrael in general and to each and every Jew individually. Base. Purim lo b'lashon hakodesh. The name Purim is not a Hebrew word. The pasuk nemar al kach kar l'yamim ha'elu Purim al shem ha'pur. That's what it says in the Megillah. Therefore, these days are called Purim al shem ha'pur, on the name of the Pur. You know what the Pur is? The dice. Haman rolled the dice to see which month it would come out with make a decree against the Jews. You know, there's an interesting class this Tuesday night on astrology according to Judaism. This is what Haman didn't do astrology according to Judaism. Haman believed.
Where is the class? I'm sorry.
It says on the door over there.
Oh, I read it. It's going to be in someone's home.
Haman rolled the dice. Haman rolled the dice, and the dice came out the Jewish month of Adar. Oh, he said this is an auspicious time because this is the time when their leader Moshe Rabbeinu passed away. But he didn't realize Moshe Rabbeinu was also born. Zion Adar, Moshe Rabbeinu passed away, and Zion Adar, Moshe Rabbeinu was born, same day. So the Hamilah Pur ain't a b'lashon hakodesh. This word Pur is not a Hebrew word. Ela b'safa haparsit. That's a Persian word. V'kasher nemar b'pasuk. He peeled Pur that Haman rolled the dice. Muzbar in the Megillah itself it explains hu hagoral. It's the lottery, the goral, I don't know even how you would say it, chance, the community chest, the monopoly.
So why is it important that be the case as opposed to a plan?
That was his plan.
But it's the lottery is no plan.
He left it. He went. I don't know what his intentions were, but he believed in fate, and he felt that if this came out, the roll of the dice told him the right time to do it. He was happy that it came out in that. He rolled the dice and it came out in Adar, and he was happy about that. He said, "Oh, means I'm going to be victorious." And the Megillah, when it says what the name Pur means, the Megillah itself translates it into Hebrew. Hu hagoral. Ubekach meturgemet hamidah, and that's how it translates the word Pur into Lashon HaKodesh. Shabok ksuva Megillah, and that's how it's written in the Megillah. V'im kach, the Rebbe says, ein muvan, it's not understood. Madua nikra chag b'shem Purim. Why is the holiday called Purim? Al shem ha'pur, b'lashon ha'parsi, on the name in a Parsi, in a Persian language. Lo b'shem goralot. Call it in a Hebrew name. Call it goralot. Call it lotteries or fate. I don't know however you would translate goralot into English. The inheritance of Eretz Yisrael was divided up lefiat goral, right? Moshe Rabbeinu put the names of the Shvatim in I don't know if it was a hat, but he put it in some container, and all the names of the Chalakim and all the portions of Eretz Yisrael in the same container.
Goral is destiny.
Destiny. And the Goral spoke, Usher is going to get this portion, Yehuda is going to get that portion, and then I think it was Aaron HaKohen who pulled it out, and it was Usher in that portion and Yehuda in that portion. It was, it was a miracle. Destiny. Haman did it according to destiny. Call it destiny. Why call it by its Persian name? Call it by its Hebrew name.
Karma.
Call it Goralot. Al Shem HaGoral, on the name of the Goral, on the name of how Haman left it up to fate. Call it in the Hebrew name, Kafisha Kol, HaMoadim, HaAcherim, and that's how all the other holidays, including Hanukkah, which also is a rabbinic holiday, are called in their Hebrew name. So why does Purim specifically have a Persian name? That's one question. Now the Rebbe is going to ask a second question. Kain and move on. It's also not understood. Shem hachag sari chaya levater There are a couple of copies in Hebrew for anyone who wants. The name of the holiday needs to express kibechagim acherim, just like other holidays, et hanes v'et ha'atzalah, megazeret haman. The name should express the miracle and the victory over Haman's decree. But the name Purim, on the name of destiny, it expresses the opposite of that. It expresses what Haman did in order to destroy and exterminate, chas v'shalom, all the Jewish people. That's the name of the holiday. Haman's desire to destroy all the Jewish people and how he went about it. Why do you call it by that name? So one question is, why is it in Aramaic? And the second question, not Aramaic, in Persian and not in Hebrew? And why give it that name? That name doesn't express the victory, like all the other holidays. Now the Rebbe says a third thing, but Megillas Esther, yesh inyan noisaf hakashur leMegillas beklaluso. There's another aspect of the Megillah that's related to the entire holiday and the entire Megillah. Shebe Megillah kula ein muskar shmo shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That in the entire Megillah, HaKadosh Baruch Hu's name is not mentioned even once. B'shonim mikol shar kisvei HaKodesh. And this is the exception to all the other holy books that are holy to the Jewish people. There are 24 books of Tanakh. Megillas Esther is one of them. And in every one of the 24 books of Tanakh, Hashem's name is written multiple times. Except in the Megillah, it's not. Hashem's name isn't even written once. So, Hadavar mitmatzbia al Helem vehester gedolim b'Yosef. So, all of these things reflect the aspect of Purim, where Purim is dealing with a nace that took place, and a period of time that took place where there was Helem and Hester. Helem and Hester means Hashem was hidden.
In the Hebrew, and I can't help you if you will either know or not, but there's some place or some combination of words kind of hints that it's Hashem or it's, I don't know.
That is about Hashem, yeah, every time it says HaMelech. In the Megillah, it's referring to Hashem.
That's a direct word. You're saying Melech.
So there's a pirush like that, yeah.
Yeah, but I thought there was actually a Hebrew kind of thing that if you looked at the words.
It could be. I don't know that. But when it says, when the actual, in the Megillah itself, the time in the Megillah where we see Hashem's hand moving history is when the king couldn't sleep. It says Nadada Shnat HaMelech, right? The king's sleep was disturbed, right? And he woke up, and then they read before him the Chronicles, and they saw Mordechai saved his life, and he asked what reward was given to Mordechai, and they said no reward was given to Mordechai, and right then Haman came, and Haman wanted to hang Mordechai, and all of a sudden Achashverosh woke up from his stupidity and his naivety, and he realized who was good and who was evil, that Mordechai was good and Haman was evil. But over there on that, what?
It was taught him. It was told him.
How was it told to him?
That Mordechai prevented.
Yeah, they told him, right? They told him.
It's not that he woke up and here it was.
Right, true. Right.
So in Judaism, everything that Hashem does is destiny and fate. But to the non-Jew Haman, it's considered random.
You know what? The words destiny and fate, I don't really understand them so much. I understand Hashgacha Pratis, right? Hashgacha Pratis means divine providence. Everything that happens because
Don't you
Hashem
apply?
wants it to happen, right? That's a principle, a basic principle of Judaism. But it doesn't mean that if someone's stuck in a pit, they shouldn't try to get out of the pit. They could say, I'm in the pit. In other words, after something happens, we're left with no choice to say Hashem must have wanted it to happen, whether we understand the reason or not.
It applies also to Het Ha'egel. It applies also to Etzadah.
True, true. But before the Chet, Adam Arishan, it was usher for him to be Chayte. Before the Jewish people worshipped the golden calf, it was forbidden for them to do it.
But we want them to do it.
It was divine providence that it should happen, that history should go through these stages in this way, but that doesn't pardon the sinner from his crime.
But it was the Erev Rav. Wasn't it?
Rav, but the Erev Rav influenced the Jewish people, and the Jewish people also participated. You're right. It was the Erev Rav. You're right. It was the Erev Rav. It says, Rashi says straight out, it was the Erev Rav.
So why would
We're
we
getting back
expect anything from them?
We expect.
I mean, it's
You
just
expect the
troublemakers.
Jewish people to say, we're not going to listen to you. You're troublemakers.
But
You want us to be.
overwhelmingly, the Jews did not. Follow
They
them.
did. They did.
There were 3,000 from what I keep
No.
reading.
But they said the 3,000 said, let's make our God. But the other ones.
But it wasn't even a god. It was to replace Moshe.
Okay, let's not get off the subject too much. Ask the question about fate and destiny. Okay? So the answer is, I don't know what fate and destiny means, but Judaism believes in divine providence. Everything happens because Hashem wants it to happen. So Hashem also wanted the whole story of Purim to happen, just like it happened. Okay? But we should never make the mistake that because something happens that is not, at least the way we see it, it's not good for us, that we should try to stay stuck in the mud. We should always try to get out of the mud, right? If we're in the mud, we should say, okay, Hashem wanted me this to happen, but now He wants me to try to get out of the mud. Okay? Let's continue in the Sikha. He had another question about the golden calf. I don't know.
But Haman looks at it as fate.
Right. That's how he looks at
The
it.
non-Jew.
Yeah, he wasn't. He was a idol worshiper. That's why Mordechai didn't bow down to him, because he used to carry a statue of an idol around his neck.
Huh.
Yeah. So Hashem's name, the fact that Hashem's name isn't written in the Megillah at all, is an indication that the whole Purim story is a story about how Hashem works in a, like they say, in a mysterious way through nature, but in a hidden manner. Kol Yehudi, every Jew, af b'dabro b'inyanei reshut, harei shem shamayim shagar b'fiv. Every Jew, even though when he speaks about mundane matters, he speaks about HaKadosh Baruch Hu. HaKadosh Baruch Hu's name is in his mouth. How are you? How was your day? Baruch Hashem. How was work today? It was hard, Baruch Hashem. Right? Every Jew is always praising Hashem. So an entire Megillah, entire Megillah doesn't mention Hashem one time. And the Rebbe says even more than that. Bevadai, bevoyu lichtoiv, and certainly when a Jew comes to write something down, right, that's going to be published for the entire Jewish people. Hari mekubal b'kol tfutzot Yisrael. It's accepted throughout the entire Jewish people throughout the world. Asher minhag Yisrael Torah. And there's a concept that the custom of the Jewish people is Torah. It becomes an obligation. It's not a light matter, a custom. It's true if a person is faced with a situation where he can either transgress a prohibition of the Torah or not keep a custom, so he doesn't keep the custom. But that doesn't mean that the custom should be light in his eyes. Our sages teach us when a custom becomes accepted amongst the Jewish people, it has the power of Torah, and you can't just ignore it. You can't just dismiss it. A custom has a lot of force. That's Dafka in Chabad, in the Seder, in the 4 questions. So that most of the other Haggadahs start with the Diraisa. Manishtana alayla zemikol alilot shebechol alilot anu ochlim chametzu matzah. Right? On all the rest of the days of the year, we eat chametz and matzah. Alayla zeh kulo matzah. Right? Is that what you say? Kulo matzah. Kulo matzah. But on Pesach, only matzah, because it's Diraisa. It's from the Torah. You start with the Torah, and then you go rabbinic, and then the last one that's mentioned is the custom. But by Chabad, the custom starts first. We start with the first question: Lama anachnu matbilim b'kol halilot ein anu matbilim afilu pam echad. We don't dip even once. Halayla zeh shtei pamim. On this day, we dip twice. And the Rebbe has a whole sikh about that. Why do you start with a custom? And the Rebbe, that's bidiyuk what the Rebbe says, because the custom is very important. Well, we shouldn't make light of a Jewish custom. So it's a Jewish custom throughout history and all over the world that when a Jew writes something down, he writes a book, he sha'af b'ktivus michtav, even when he writes a letter, b'inyan chol, even when he writes a letter that has to do with mundane matters, poischim oisai b'baruch Hashem u'kedayma. He writes at the top of the letter, Baruch Hashem. Or Besata Deshmaya, right? That's what we do. The whole Megillah doesn't mention Hashem once. It's a big question. Shahari Kevan, Shemali Kol Haaretz Kvoidoi. Since HaKadosh Baruch Hu is Mali Kol Haaretz Kvoidoi, the entire universe is filled with His glory. V'leis Atar Panui Minei, and there's nothing that is where He is not. There's no place where He is not. He's everywhere. L'chein ha'Yehudi mekabel b'pashtus, because these are fundamentals of our faith. Therefore, every Jew accepts. It's a very simple thing. Shebekol nosei shebohu oisek, and everything that he's involved with. Hu kashur HaKadosh Baruch Hu. He's connected to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, whether it's his work, whether it's his social life, whether it's his family, whether he's learning, whatever he's doing, he's praising Hashem, he's talking about Hashem. Hashem, Shem Shamayim, Shagu B'fim. V'ilukan b'Megillah Kulo, and here in the entire Megillah, which is one of the 24 books of Tanakh, it's one of the Kitvei Kodesh, it's one of the holy books of the Jewish people. Ein muskar Shem Shamayim afilu pam echad. So now the Rebbe is going to begin to explain all these questions we asked. Ka'amor le'el, as we mentioned above, mitbater mahuto shel kol davar v'shmai. We said above that the essence of a thing is expressed by its name. Gam ha'helem v'hester sheb'megillah Shebegillas Esther misbata b'shma, and also the hiddenness of HaKadosh Baruch Hu in the Megillah, in Megillas Esther, is expressed by its name. The name of the Megillah is called Megillas Esther, or just Esther. Shem HaMatzbiah, and the name Esther is Matzbiah on Hester. The Yotemi Mikach, like Yaakov Meir said, Al Hester Kaful, a double Hester. Kenemar Begamara, Esther min HaTorah Minayim. Where do we find a indication, a hint of Esther the Tzadekis? In the Torah itself, where it says, Va'anorichi hastir et panai, and it says the word Hester Pamai.
But we don't have this page.
It's on the back, 202.
No, we don't have it.
202, yeah, it's upside down.
Oh, it's upside down?
We don't have it.
So take a different copy. Maybe your copy is yeah.
Here there is.
So the name of the Megillah itself, the name of the Megillah says Hester, Esther, hiddenness. Ach mitzat sheni, but on the other hand, Matzbiya Hashem Megillas Esther, Ubemiyuchat Kafi Shehi Nikras Gam Megillah Stam Al Gilui Megillah Miloshem Gilui. So on the one hand, the Megillah is called Esther. Either it's called Megillas Esther or just Esther, which indicates hiddenness. On the other hand, it's called Megillas Esther or just the Megillah. And Megillah is Milashon Gilui, which means to reveal. So the Megillah,
Shmuel wrote Megillah Esther.
Mordechai and Esther wrote it. Shmuel lived way before.
They wrote, but it was mechasmet from somebody else.
It was accepted by the whole Jewish people, by the Sanhedrin. Mordechai was accepted by Mirovechav. The majority of the Sanhedrin accepted Mordechai's leadership and accepted what Mordechai did was good. Yeah, there were some of the sages that thought God became too close to the Gentile king but he saved the entire Jewish people. Mordechai was the Nasi Ador. Ukashem shema hamegillah yeshnam shtei hanigudim helen megilui. Just like in the Megillah, the name of the Megillah itself, you have two contrary concepts. Has helen v'gilui, hiddenness and gilui. And the name itself, Megillat Esther, is revealing the Esther. That's the name of that's what the Megillah means. That's what it means. It also means the scroll of Esther, right? But it also means Esther melashon Esther, Esther from the language of hiddenness, and Megillah from the language of Gilui, of revelation. So just like in the Megillah, the name of the Megillah itself, you have these two contradictory concepts. Kach gam legabe Chag Purim. Also by Purim itself, by the Chag itself. Mitzad echad nikra moyed zeh b'shem Purim. On one hand, it's called in a Persian name, and it's called a Persian name that refers to Al Shem Inyan Hakaruch B'Gezerah, and it refers to the Gezerah that Haman wanted to make against the Jewish people, the decree that Haman wanted to make against the Jewish people. Davar Matzbiya ala Kesha Shalo Le'inyan Shel Helam V'Hester, which is something that is related to hiddenness. Mitzad Sheni, Yemei Purim Hem Yemei Mishta U'Simcha. On the other hand, the days of Purim are days of joy and festivity. Harbe yoter mechagim acherim, much more than other holidays. Ad l'simcha hagadoyle b'yoser l'mayla mikol medid v'agbala. Until one, and how much should one be sameach? Until his simcha goes beyond all medida v'agbala, all measurement and limitation. Boifen shel ad lo yada. Like the Gemara says, a person should drink on Purim until he gets to the point to ad shelo yada, until he doesn't know. Interestingly,
But that's the starting point not to know.
what do you mean?
We don't know.
What do you mean we don't know? You don't know the difference between Baruch Mordechai and Ar Haman?
But that's the beginning. We don't have to get drunk to not know.
Anyway, the person shouldn't get drunk where he gets sick or he becomes unable to daven properly. Well, he could daven before and then he could wake up and daven later, but
With a headache.
he shouldn't get too drunk. He shouldn't get too drunk where he can't serve Hashem properly. Where he
My
can't.
advice is before you start drinking to break the fast, do something in between. Have some food in between.
Before you start drinking, to have a little food,
After the fast, it's the only fast that goes into a drinking spree.
right? Well, most of the drinking is done during the day, not at night.
No, we fasted them, not that night before.
The Purim Sud is during the day after, right? The fast is the day before.
The evening, they won't be drinking and not close.
People drink also, but usually it's at the meal. But Ad Shelo Yada, the Hasidus explains that yeda, knowledge, rationality, serving Hashem according to reason,
מעל דת בטעם, כאן בדת.
serving Hashem according to reason is within limit. It's limited, and a person should drink to the point where they realize adilo yada, that I have to be able to serve. I have to serve Hashem beyond limitation. Not that I have to drink beyond limitation, but I drink enough that I realize I have to serve Hashem beyond limitation, beyond seichel. Yeah, but that and all what I just said is not written in the sikha that we're learning today. Anyway, so we see this just like we see in the name of the Megillah itself, two contradictory messages, hiddenness and revelation. We see in the holiday of Purim itself also. We see the name of Purim is called after the Gezerah, the decree that Haman wanted to make to destroy the entire Jewish people, which is hiddenness. And we see also that Purim itself is celebrated with tremendous joy.
So we respond to the curse with joy.
We respond to what?
The curse, Haman's curse.
Well, there was a big salvation we had. We had a salvation. This curse didn't come to fruition. Hashem made a big nace, and the Rebbe is going to describe what happened. What happened behind the scenes, underneath? What really happened over here? Why did it happen? Hey, kedei lahavin zot yesh laqdim et echad hahoraot, echad minei rabot, hanilmedes misipur hamegillah b'klaluso umipurim hora'ah hamuvenet b'pashtus b'tkufas gezeres haman. Okay, so in order to understand this, we're gonna take one idea that we can learn from the Megillah in general and from Purim, and it's an idea that's understood very, 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 very simply. B'tkufa gezeres Haman, during that period of time when Haman made the gezerah, the decree against the Jewish people, hayu leYehudim nitzigim chashuvim b'beit hamelucha. The Jews had important, powerful people in the palace.
Right now.
Right? Purim's very much, the story of Purim and the messages of Purim are very much related to right now. That was how we started the Sikha, that the Baal Shem Tov said that anyone who reads the Megillah, the Gemara says that anyone who reads the Megillah out of order isn't Yotzei, doesn't fulfill his obligation. And the Baal Shem Tov takes it a step deeper and says, anyone who thinks that the lessons and the miracle of the Megillah only applied back then is also mistaken.
But also the fragility of the Jewish people is considered,
There's a lot of parallels.
The Jews, and then someone comes in and says, "Don't kill all the Jews."
There's a lot of parallels. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. To talk about it, let's learn the Sikha, and then we can talk about it. You can talk about it, your Purim Suda.
I have a word now. Do we say Hallel on Purim?
No, we read the Megillah. The Megillah is in place of Hallel.
It didn't take place in Israel.
Hmm?
The Purim story did not take place in Israel.
Okay.
So
That's another reason given? Interesting. So the Rebbe says that the Jewish people had...
Yes, Mitzrayim didn't take place in Israel.
take place in
okay, but that's... Hanukkah and Purim are from the sages. All the other holidays are from the Torah itself. Pesach, Shavuos, and Sukkot.
Chodesh?
Huh?
I'm going with your
Okay.
Rosh Chodesh.
Huh?
Rosh Chodesh?
Rosh Chodesh was also from the Torah, you're right.
The first Chodesh.
The first Chodesh, the first day?
The first Chodesh, the Chodesh Nisan is from the Torah.
No, but there's a mitzvah to be Mekadesh the month every year by the moon, and then when the Sanhedrin was disbanded,
Sanhedrin. Leave out Sanhedrin. It's from the Torah.
what? What you said.
is there a mitzvah to celebrate Rosh Chodesh every month from the Torah?
I'm asking.
Yeah, I think
Where
so.
from?
I think it's from that pasuk itself. Chodesh Hazem. Rishon Levin. Take a look. Take a look at the Meforshim. No, we see this case with David and Shaul, when David didn't come to the Suda of Rosh Chodesh, Shaul and Yonatan, Shaul, King Saul's son, defended David. Shaul threw a spear at his son. You see, they had a Suda of Rosh Chodesh. It also says in the Nevi'im, in the end of the. I know I'm not prepared to answer that question and give you sources. You could look into it. Okay, it's a good question. Good point. So the Jewish people at that point in the history of the Jewish people, when Purim took place, when Haman made the Gezerah, the Jewish people had powerful and influential people in the palace. Mordechai was one of the he sat in the king's gate. And in addition to that, he saved the king's life. When there was a plot to kill King Achashverosh, who was the one who revealed the plot and told it over to Esther to tell the king to watch out? Who was the one? Mordechai. Mordechai saved the king's life. Ubemiyuchad Shetisach and also Esther, the Cain Esther. She was the prince. She was the queen, the Jewish woman, the Jewish queen. Ubemiyuchad Shevetisach the Chesed Lefanav, and especially that the Megillah says that Esther found favor in the eyes of the king. So the Jewish people had very, very powerful people in the kingdom at that time. And therefore it would seem, Kasher Noida Lahem Hagazera, when it became known to Mordechai and Esther, the decree that Haman made against the Jewish people, Hem Hayut Srichim Lanatzel Berosha Berishona et Nitzigut Shalem and et Nitzigim Shalem. It would appear that they should, first and foremost, they should try to be Sheyafalu Leman Bitul HaGazera Yedei HaMelech HaChashverosh. They should use their power and influence to try to get rid of the decree, right? In the presence of Achashverosh. Chamegillah Misaperes, but the Megillah tells us that's not what they did. Shepulasai Harishayna, the first pool of Mordechai was Vayilbash Sak ve'efer v'yatza b'toich ha'ir v'tzak tzak ha'gedolah. And Mordechai put on sack and efer. He put on mourning garments and dust, and he went around the city and he cried with a great cry. Who hit orer b'tshuva, he woke up to do tshuva. V'oires kol Yehudim lashu b'tshuva. He himself did tshuva, and he told all the Jews they have to do tshuva. V'rak la'achar mikain, and just only after Mordechai went around and influenced all the Jews to do tshuva, then he sent Esther, and he told Esther, you have to go to the king. You have to go and you have to plead before the king for your people. But Esther didn't listen to Mordechai right away. Gam Esther nagabo tof, and she acted the same way Mordechai did. Instead of going straight to the king, Kasher haitatzrichali kanes lamelech. He biksha mi rosh u'berishona mi Mordechai. She first told Mordechai, "Lech kenoises kol Yehudim, go out and gather together all the Jews with sumu alai, and make a fast for me. V'al tochlu, and don't eat. V'al tishdu, and don't drink shloishes yamim laila v'yom, for 3 days in a row. Don't eat and drink before I go to the king. V'af bekach hilo histapekes." And even with this, it wasn't enough for her. Elo sifa v'amra. She added to that and said, "Gam ani atzum. I also will fast 3 days and 3 nights." Ulachayra, it would seem that this behavior of Esther to find favor in the eyes of the king, ubemiyuchad kasher knisaso el hatzar. El Chatzer HaMelech HaPnimis Hayalo Kadas, it would seem that in order for her to find favor in the eyes of the king, especially when she wasn't called for 30 days. And the rule was anyone who wasn't called before the king and decided to show up would be killed. Unless, of course, the king extended the Shavit Zahav, the golden rod, which meant don't kill the person that's here. But the rule was no, the person is getting killed. And Esther wasn't called before the king for 30 days. And her going before the king was against the rules of the court. And it was krucha b'sakanas nefashos mamish. And it involved mamish putting her life in danger. Echad da'asur lahamis. V'drusha haisa nesias chen miyuchedet. Therefore, she needed to have a special chen. How do you say chen?
Grace.
Grace. Thank you. A special grace. Kiva ani lo nikresi, for she wasn't called for 30 days.
She knew she was not going to be killed.
How did she know?
Kasher avati avati. If she says kasher avati avati,
That's what she said already afterwards.
well,
No, you're right. She said that kasher avadati avadati. If I would be killed, I'll be killed.
no, avati means something else in this case.
What does it mean?
If she's going to have a relationship with him, she's lost for Mordechai.
Okay, now you're bringing in a whole thing with the Gemara, machlokes between Abaya and Rava, whether she was married to Mordechai or she was
Well,
not.
yeah, but
It's a machlokes in the Gemara.
uh,
Okay,
up to then, she was forced to go.
right.
Then she decided to go.
Right.
That's why she said.
You're right.
That's she knew she.
But that's a drush. Asher lo kedas. It's also a name of Asher lo kedas. She was going to before the king. Asher lo kedas. In other words,
Kedat can also mean
kedat Moshe.
Kedat Moshe.
Right. But that's the Gemara says. The Gemara discussed. You're right. But the pashtus of the milim of the Megillah, the straightforward text of the Megillah is she was putting her life in danger, and it was against the laws of Mordechai's court, of Ahasuerus's court. 1 second, and that doesn't go away from its straightforward understanding.
That's a law mishpat.
What?
If it was according on the king's rule, it would have been kedat. Lefi mishpat. Look,
You also say data medina. You could also say the data medina. But okay, said maybe that's why the Gemara use that pirush because of the word dot. I don't know. But it doesn't, even though there's a deeper translation, there's a different translation. There's Shivim Panim LaTorah. There's 70, what do they say? 70,
faces.
huh?
Faces.
70 faces for Torah, right? Elu ve'elu divrei Elokim Chaim. And these are all divrei Elokim Chaim. They're all words of the living God. Okay, but the straightforward explanation of the words of the Megillah is that she was literally putting her life in danger. There was a decree made that no one can go into the court of Achashverosh without being specifically called in. She wasn't called in for 30 days, and now Mordechai was going to tell her to go and go and plead for the Jewish people in front of Achashverosh. And you would think it would make sense. She needs a special measure of grace right now, right? And when you fast, the Rebbe says, and when you fast 3 days in a row, that in a natural manner, that doesn't help grace. That makes a person look much less graceful, right? After Yom Kippur, one day we're wiped out. We look like we were fasting for a whole day. Imagine 3 days in a row. So it doesn't make sense.
I did it once.
You fasted 3 days in a row?
I'm not sure if it's lots of reasons.
But actually no water and no food?
No.
No water, I don't know.
Okay.
No
It's a
food.
big, okay. Said it, 3 days no food. Yeah, 3 days no food is known
New York.
for health reasons, right? Yeah, cleanse. Yeah. Okay, but you drank water.
Yeah.
All right, so they went, Mordechai and Esther. You would think Mordechai's he's one of the king's ministers. He's going to go plead before the king. Esther's the queen. She's going to go plead before the king. But first, they didn't do that. First, they looked at the spiritual causes. Mordechai gathered the Jewish people together and he said, we have to do tshuva. And Esther fasted for 3 days. And she said, and not only everyone should fast for me for 3 days, and I'm also going to fast. Well, they also went to get rid of the spiritual cause for the Gezerah. And only afterwards, they used the hishtadlus. They used the hishtadlus efforts in this world. Vav. Ha'ezbilakach, the explanation for this is simple. The Rebbe says it's a simple explanation why they acted this way. Mordechai Esther v'yadu b'biro, they understood clearly sha'hagezer al Yisrael, that the decree against the Jewish people, Eino mi minhaga olam iralanu v'tzaral zuk nikra nikris. They understood that there's no such thing as coincidence, and this didn't happen to us just because Haman decided to roll the dice. Ela biglal ma'aseyam harayim haralem. They understood it was because the Rambam says they understood that the reason this decree came about was because of their bad behavior, their sins.
But it's never said what the sin was. We know what it was, but it's never said in the Megillah. Why not?
I don't know.
They say above it, it's adat. And
The Rebbe is going to say something regarding that question. Not going to answer exactly why it doesn't say, but you'll see what the Rebbe is going to say in a minute. The kaven should move in the pashtus, and since it was self-understood, it's self-understood that you can't get rid of the result, hamasoivev, the gezerah, kol od ein mevatlim et asiba, until you get rid of the reason for the result. Hamaisim harayim, which was the bad behavior. Like they say, right? Don't treat the symptoms, treat the cause. Yeah? If you're treating the symptoms, you're not really helping much, because you have to, if you really want to get rid of the problem, you have to treat the cause. That's what the Rebbe is saying over here. Therefore, their first reaction to this gezerah was to waken the Jewish people to tshuva and to decree a fast. The low rock, low tshuva ba'ofen stami, and not just to in a limited manner raise the Jewish people's awareness that they have to do tshuva. But to actually detail the sin that they have to do tshuva for, like Yaakov Meir asked, Kenemar b'Medrash, like it says in the Midrash. It's not mentioned in the Gemara or in the Megillah, but it's mentioned in the Midrash. What was the chet? Al pasuk tzumu alai v'al tochlu v'al tishtu, on the pasuk of the Megillah that it says, fast for me, don't eat and don't drink. So the Midrash says, Atem sami mal shachalta v'shatita misudasa shalachat shveirosh. You have to fast because you ate and drank at the Su'uda of Achashverosh, at the feast that Achashverosh made for all his kingdom. The Jewish people came and socialized and ate and drank.
It was kosher.
They shouldn't have gone.
This was the chet.
The chet was the king had the kahuna.
However you want to be mafareshet, you ask the question, where does in the Megillah say what the chet was? It doesn't say in the Megillah, but the Midrash says. That the chet was that they participated. The Midrash said, this is the words of the Midrash. You're fasting because you ate and drank at the Suda Shalach HaShverosh.
The Semitic said that it was kosher.
Okay, so you have a question on the Midrash.
Mordechai was a mashkiach.
Excuse me?
Maybe Mordechai was a mashkiach.
Ula'acha sha'al yedei chazara b'tshuva hisiru et hagorim legezera v'harei HaKadosh Baruch Hu chofetz b'nekitas pu'ulas v'oifen shel b'chol asher taseh asiyas pu'ula kolchehi b'derech hateva l'chein panu az el Achashverosh levatel et hagezera. So the Rebbe explains that since HaKadosh Baruch Hu's way, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu created the world, is that all the bracha comes from him, but he, in order that the bracha should flow down into this world, he requires that we do activities to draw that bracha down. Like it says, Yivarechecha Hashem, Hashem will bless you, b'chol asher ta'aseh, in everything that you do, you have to do something. So therefore, the pu'ula that they did, that Mordechai and Esther did, in awakening the Jewish people to do tshuva, to making a fast, that pu'ula, derech hateva, that pu'ula in this world, according to nature, they did first, and only afterwards they went to Achashverosh personally and asked him to cancel the decree. And therefore, since the going to Achashverosh was only the garment of nature, that they had to actually go to Achashverosh and ask him, in order that the salvation that comes from above will have something to grasp onto in Teva, that have something to grasp onto in this world. Even though the cause of the redemption and the salvation was the fasting and the tainis and the tshuva, the fasting and the tshuva, move on. So the Rebbe here distinguishes between the real cause of the cancellation of the Gezerah and what the Jewish people had to do in according to the laws of nature to cancel the Gezerah. The real reason the Gezerah was canceled is because the Jewish people did tshuva and fasted. But they still had to do something in nature to bring about that salvation, to draw it down into the world. And that was going to Achashverosh, Esther going to Achashverosh and saying, save my people. The Rebbe says, one second, the Rebbe says, we have to not make a mistake and confuse the true cause with the garment. The garment is only the way HaKadosh Baruch Hu set it up in the world, that you have to act. You have to go to work. You can't expect money to rain down from heaven. But if you work in an honest fashion and you daven and you're zoiche, you can do a very, very little bit amount of actual garments and a tremendous amount of blessing can flow down. You have to make a garment, like we see the story with Elisha the prophet. We mentioned one time with a woman, she had to pay the debt. The king sent someone to claim the debt, and if she doesn't pay the debt, the king is going to take her 2 children. And Elisha told her, bring oil, bring containers. Many containers and oil. She had 1 flask of oil. From the 1 flask of oil, he was able to pour into all the containers. You need to make a container. You need to make a vessel. But the vessel, it's a garment. It's not you. The real you is your relationship with the HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And when the Jewish people corrected their relationship with the HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that was the end of the Gezerah. Okay, now they have to go through the garment of nature in order to have it come through nature, have it come down. But never to confuse the garment with the real, true reason. You wanted to ask something, Yaakov?
2 things. Where was Rav of Am Yisrael at the time?
In 127 provinces.
In Israel?
Not in Israel. No. This was right after the first exile. It was within the 70 years. It was even before Ezra and Nehemiah came back. Only Achashverosh's grandson, Korush,
The second question is,
agreed to let the Jews come back, and that's when Ezra and Nehemiah came and rebuilt the second base of Mikdash.
Mordechai and Esther realized something was wrong, right?
Yeah.
1933, 1939. Who was the Rebbe? What did the Rebbe write? The previous Rebbe write?
Who was the Rebbe? The 33? I guess it was the Frierdiker Rebbe. It was the Frierdiker Rebbe, the previous Rebbe.
So
Was Rebbe Rashab? No,
Yes,
the previous Rebbe.
So about the Shoah, there was no Maamar.
I don't know.
What? There are Maamarim.
What?
There are Maamarim. We should know if there are some Maamarim.
The previous Rebbe at that time was in a, how do you say it, existential battle with the communist regime that was a superpower of the world that was trying to destroy Judaism. And he fought with tremendous Mesiras Nefesh until the point where he was actually called Ha'ish Mesiras Nefesh. He was, the Frierdiker Rebbe was called the Jew of Mesiras Nefesh. All the other Rabbanim fled Russia.
What year did he go out from jail?
The previous Rebbe?
Yutes Kislev.
That was the Alter Rebbe.
I mean,
Gimel Tam, Yud Beis and Yud Gimel Tammuz?
what year?
I don't know. It was while Stalin was still alive.
Okay, but
The late 30s. I think it was the late 30s. It was before World War II broke out.
so they must have written something between 38 and 42
He wrote many things. There's all Sfarim of the Frierdiker Rebbe.
about the Shoah.
About the Shoah, it hadn't occurred yet.
Well, it started in 39, it started, and 42 is already.
The Frierdiker Rebbe, it says in the no, I don't know what I don't know if the Frierdiker Rebbe wrote anything about the Shoah that hadn't occurred yet, and about the Hitler Yamach Shmo's rise to power. I don't know. It could be he did, but the Frierdiker Rebbe was in a struggle with communist Russia to save Judaism.
Let's say 44, 45, after the war or during the war. They knew, everybody knew what was going on.
What's your question?
Mordechai realized that what happened, which was something out of the blue, was caused by some chet we did. Maybe the Shoah was something very big as this.
Yeah, you know, there is a Yom Yom where the Frierdiker Rebbe writes that the sufferings that are happening, I don't know when he wrote it, but he wrote the sufferings and calamities that are happening to the Jewish people are signs of the birth pangs of Mashiach, and everyone has to do tshuva. I think there's a Yom Yom that says that. If there's other things the Frierdiker Rebbe wrote, I don't know. You could look it up.
Can you repeat it? Because you are touching something very, very, very important.
I'm pretty sure that there's a Yom Yom
Yes.
that says that the Frierdiker Rebbe said that what the calamities and the troubles that are happening to the Jewish people, right, are birth pangs of Mashiach.
Skalta the Mashiach.
Birth pangs. I don't know. I read it in English. I don't know Yiddish.
No, Kalta, it's Hebrew. We say in the prayer.
Chevle Mashiach, maybe. Chevle is birth pangs. I don't know. I remember saying birth pangs of Mashiach. I know it says in the English
Why
translation.
I'm saying this?
And we have to do tshuva.
Why I'm saying this?
Why?
Eretz Yisrael.
What do you mean?
You realize yourself.
I don't.
Medinat Israel. Okay.
Okay. What is the point you want to make? I don't understand the point you want to make.
Okay. Not important.
Why? You don't. Do you understand this point? I don't know.
Sure.
Birth pangs of Israel.
It's Chalta the Mashiach.
That at Medinat Yisrael is the
It's Chalta the Mashiach.
is the Schalta the Geula, or it caused a delay in the Geula. We can't know.
Not bad.
We can't know. I mean,
According to Rabbi Cook, it's
okay. I know. I went one time when I was a teenager. My first trip to Israel. We went to Hebron. The group I was with went to Hebron. Rabbi Levinger, Alav Shalom, was the founder of the new yeshuva of Hebron, and Rebbitzin Levinger, Alav Shalom, she passed away recently. She spoke to us, and she's a very sweet woman from the States. They were both from the States, and she said a very nice idea. I'll tell you now what she said. She said, "We know how the book ends. We know how the book ends. We just don't know how many chapters we have to go through to get to the ending. It's a good ending. The book has a good ending. Hashem will be revealed in the world, and the Jewish people will be great teachers of godliness to the rest of the world that remains after all the birth pangs are over. we're going through troubles now. Now, the sages in the times of the Talmud, one of the sages remarked, he doesn't want to be in the generation when Mashiach comes because of all the troubles that are going to occur. There's a lot of troubles, but in the face of troubles, someone told me recently that someone went to the Rebbe, and a woman went to the Rebbe, and she said to the Rebbe, Rebbe, I need your help. I'm a warrior. So the Rebbe said, don't be a warrior, be a warrior. You ever heard that before?
Don't be a worry.
Don't be a warrior, be a warrior. Right? When the going gets tough, the tough get going. Okay? When sometimes the Jewish people are compared, not sometimes, forget the word sometimes. The Jewish people are compared according to our Chachamim, according to an olive. And the Chachamim say, generations ago, sometimes to get the oil out of an olive, you have to squeeze an olive. So we're being squeezed. Okay? So everyone has to, the reaction to being squeezed has to be proud of who you are and to shine and illuminate and to strengthen your connection with Yiddishkeit and strengthen your connection with the Kodesh Baruch Hu and try to influence others to strengthen their connection. Because just like we see in the Purim story, right? This is exactly what Mordechai and Esther did, right? Even though they had great positions of power, before they actually went and they tried to use their influence with Achashverosh, first they looked to what is the cause. And the cause was, like the Midrash says, they ate and drank at the feast of Achashverosh, and everyone could know within themselves, at least in an individual level, what they have to fix. So we have to fix up what we have to fix, and we have to shine. And like Hasidah says, a little bit of light dispels a great amount of darkness automatically, without effort. So once a person realizes what he has to fix up, and he really realizes it, in other words, he goes through this and has a sense of bitterness. That's what charata means. Charata is the terminology that the Rambam uses and the Talmud uses. And what there are three parts of tshuva: azivas hachet, not doing it anymore, whatever it is; charata, and then what?
Yeah, did.
Okay, and then taking upon yourself to be better in the future. But azivas hachet and charata are the first two aspects. Getting rid of the chet. Charata is a feeling of bitterness. If you didn't go through the feeling of bitterness, you didn't do charata. And if you feel bitterness is something that you have and then you move on. You take your bitterness and you say, okay, what happened, now how can I fix it? How can I move on? How can I illuminate? It's not like depression. Person sometimes is depressed. Depression has no life. Person who's depressed, he doesn't want to get out of bed. He doesn't want to do anything. He's depressed. But bitterness has vitality. True, it's a vitality that's not pleasant, but it's a vitality that a person can take that and move forward. We'll continue until anyone wants to stop. I don't have a problem continuing. The other Rav didn't come yet. We didn't finish the Sikha. So we'll continue a little bit. What do you say, Chanok? What do you say?
As long as the coffee's free.
As long as the coffee's free. Okay. You don't want to give all the cows all the food. A little story we had before the class. Okay. So anyway, yeah. Where are we? Okay. So we're in Zion. So now the Rebbe says, what is the lesson we learned from all this? Mm-hmm. The lesson we learned from all this is understood very simply. The Ace Tzara Rahmana Litzlan. In a time of trouble, may Hashem protect us. Yesh hasoivrim, there are those who say, Sha'apiliyut ha'ikarit tzricha lidbatot v'chipus emtzaim b'darkei hateva. There are those who say that the main effort has to be in the ways of nature, to take the lavush, the garment, and make that the main thing. Al kach misaperet lanu ha-Megillah? No. Therefore, the Megillah tells us no. That's the second level. That's the second shlav. That's the second shlav. That's the second chapter. That's the second thing you have to do. The first thing you have to do is try to figure out what's the cause and get rid of the cause itself. So the rabbi is here. Yes?
Second tier.
The second tier. So the rabbi is here. Bezrat Hashem, we'll finish up the Sikha next week.